Welcome. We're going to call this meeting to order. Our meeting of Health, Education, Entertainment, Neighborhoods, Parks, Arts, Rivers Committee. It's a little past 1, and we're in City Hall, room 1060, and I'm joined by my colleague, Councilmember Corinne Price. I'd like to remind everybody in the audience who wants to speak on any of the items, if you could go right outside and in front of the kiosk, if you could sign up to speak up on public comment or any of the items on the agenda today. Now, I'd like to take multiple item and public comment as well, and general public comment. Eric Previn and Corey Schmidt, I'll give you guys 3 minutes, 2 minutes for your items, and 1 minute for general public comment. Let's do two for the items first.
Thank you. It's Eric Previn from Studio City. And today, I note on your agenda a couple of interesting items. Obviously, this is not the special meeting, so one of the two roundup meeting items is going to be continued, is my understanding, and one of them is going to be heard, but this is not in the regular meeting, the one that's going to be heard, so I'll hold my comments on that. I am supportive of banning that stuff. Regarding the LA for Kids Steering Committee reports, you've got 3 on your agenda today. This is, of course, Prop K was voter-approved money to do various things at Parks and Rec parks. And in Studio City, where we have Beaman Park, there was a plan to modernize the gym. You'll see O'Farrell here in CD13 has a modern gymnasium phase 2 program. These ideas are coming from City Hall without community support to do extremely green, so that's kind of a good thing. But large structures that are exorbitantly expensive. The modern gym for Studio City was approved in the Prop K allotment. There was $3 million approved, and we were looking forward to a little more because the money has grown over time. But now the budget, thanks to Krikorian and people who we cannot even see, the budget has soared to over $16 million. We've requested the plans for what it can be aptly described as a monstrosity on a kid park where kids play in the little turf. We're going to, Councilmember O'Farrell, welcome, sir. Nice of you to show up. I just want to point out that we're going to lose 59% of our turf at Beaman Park in Studio City, and we never really went for it. They sent out Nate and the people from BOE who operate kind of under the radar and provided a smattering of information and then told us it's ready to go. We're sending it up for Prop 68 funding, and we can't wait to get another $8 million to close the gap and put a giant structure in your beautiful park full of trees and kids and fields.
Thank
so
you.
that's a
minute
disaster.
for your public item, general public comment.
Sure, thank you, sir. In general public comment, I have to say how confused I am by 1 p.m. meetings. I was eager to speak here on that important matter to me, and I was standing right in between the 2 offices on this building because I wanted to speak in the next door meeting as well on an important item. They, believe it or not, knew that I was there and that others were there and just called the names and then closed the meeting within 3 or 4 minutes. It is funny, Mr. Price, isn't it? How can we possibly fake people out from speaking at committee? Because once you give an opportunity for someone to speak at committee, they don't. When they come to council, they don't get to speak. So this is a 3, pick your best item, and you're screwed. So I know that sounds confusing to folks who don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to promise to you, Mr. Rue, that I'm going to make it extremely clear for people to understand that this worst practice that I think is introduced by Greg Smith, the old timer, the guy who went up with the woodwork around here, now he's back to lobbying for waste management, I assume. You brought him in to be a CD12 representative. This is a shameful practice, and I really ask you to take, if you want to be the done reformer, look at that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Corey, go ahead. 2 minutes for your items first.
Yes, sir. Hey, Corey Schmidt for the record. Number 1, in regards to the evidence-based program from Department of Aging, I was wondering what that exactly meant. Evidence of aging? It was a little confusing to me. I don't think there should be evidence needed for that sort of thing if someone has a problem, you know what I mean? Number 2, I really wanted to speak on in regards to the Good Food program. Something I brought up yesterday as well. It's really important that I notice, or that we at least talk about, because I noticed that there's not a lot of nutrition in the food that's offered in various places. I mainly bring up the idea that there's a lot of filler in the food. There's not a lot of nutrition. I just noticed that they're cutting back on meat and protein. So I really like that this is on the agenda because I think it's something that we need to talk about. Farmers market vouchers for people. With the vouchers, I agree, that's a good idea. And then Hollywood Gymnasium, the rec center, sounds kind of cool. I didn't have a chance to look at it too much, but, and then capital improvements to the parks. I'm always for improving our parks, so I am for that. And then the one that was concerning to me was the insecticide, the Roundup thing. I've been hearing that there's a lot of cancer that's been brewed from that stuff, so I'm glad that we're talking about it because it's dangerous if people are out there spraying it all day, especially people that work in landscaping, you know what I mean? So let's move to my general public comment. I just wanted to bring up what I was talking about earlier in regards to the neighborhood council, and I could use some help. So I know that this is kind of the place to bring it up. So there's just some overruling, I would say. So, I mean, I don't know what to really do about it, but...
Thank you. We did a general?
1
minute general.
That was all of that, yeah. Just saying, before I got cut off, was that I could use some help. I'm not really sure the best avenue to go about it, but I'm bringing it up because basically, in retaliation for me bringing up stuff, they're putting a big, giant project across the street from my house, so... just saying, I need some help. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. Colleagues, if that satisfies all multiple items in general public comment, so I'm going to be closing general public comment. And colleagues, if there's no objections, I'd like to take items 1, 3, 4, and 6 on consent. Okay?
No objection.
Great. And for the record, Councilman O'Farrell joined us a little while ago. Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. And I'd like to call up item number 2. If you could read that in, please.
Sure. Item number 2 is a motion, Koretz, Bonin, O'Farrell, and Rue, relative to the Good Food Purchasing Program and providing more vegan protein options at city food concessionary locations.
Thank you. And there are 11 people signed up for this item. If I could first call up Mr. Richard Hall. It's a pleasure that you're here, and we just want to thank you for all of your service to the City of LA.
Thanks. My name is Richard Hall. I'm publicly known as Moby, and I own a restaurant in Silver Lake, and I own a few properties throughout LA County, and I run a charitable foundation. And I'm here to speak on behalf of this. And on one hand, respectfully, it seems self-evident to me for so many different reasons, like whatever criteria we apply to this, whether it's health, but also the fact that Los Angeles, sort of baked into the history of Los Angeles, is that Los Angeles is a leader and represents the future. And to me, this sends a message to the rest of the United States, to the rest of the world, that Los Angeles is still leading as regards health, as regards climate change, and also as regards entrepreneurialism. You look at the IPO for Beyond Meat, which is a local company, and it's one of the most successful IPOs of 2019. So very simply, I just wanted to say I support this for all the self-evident, commonsensical reasons. I think anyone could support this. And that's 0. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to ask, is someone from District 5 here that wants to speak? I apologize. We should have called you up first.
It's a tough act to follow.
What? You don't need a time.
Again, Allison Simard, speaking on behalf of Councilmember Koretz. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for hearing this motion today, and thank you to all the supporters who are here today. With the recent climate-exacerbated tragedies going on around the world, from the massive flooding and destruction in Bermuda and Texas to the burning Brazilian rainforest, devastating droughts across Australia, to name just a few, we need to continue to step up our climate actions as a city and as a climate leader. As we've heard loud and clear from Brazil, those rainforests are burning to make room for cattle herds and for industrial agriculture to grow food for those cattle herds. In short, companies are supporting burning the lungs of the planet so they can sell us hamburgers and cheese. We need to ensure our Angelenos who are paying attention and changing their diets can have vegan protein options available whenever and wherever they need them. Councilmember Koretz introduced this motion because he had noticed a lack of vegan options available at LAX for travelers. In fact, several members of our staff are vegan like me, or are of some variation of vegetarian or even reducitarian like Councilmember Koretz. It's difficult to find vegan options at any of our city facilities. By definition, we're not talking about a small bag of peanuts, but an actual vegan entree, one that should be available at every location possible in every terminal at LAX or Union Station or any place where captive audiences do not have food options. To be clear, this motion isn't about demanding only vegan options like a Beyond Burger or Veggie Dog, although that would be great. We're talking about offering a lentil salad or hummus wrap without cheese or bean burrito, those that are all part of available fare that could be offered with slight modifications. Given that veganism has increased something like 600% over the past several years, Councilmember Koretz figured we weren't adequately providing sustenance for a growing portion of our population. Looking across the city, we've included our rec and parks concessionaires, large entertainment venues, and our movie theaters as well. The Theater Association met with Councilmember Koretz and staff immediately and agreed to do a pilot to sell vegan options at a few theaters to check out their results. They came back and said that they were extremely surprised to see that vegan sausages were selling incredibly well at the Grove, but out in Winnetka, they sold almost none over the course of a few months. So rather than force theaters who are already struggling due to their proliferation of entertainment options out there today to essentially waste food, Councilmember Koretz has agreed to remove them from the effort, and we'll watch happily as the demand grows organically when word gets out about the demographics of the successful pilot area. Councilmember Koretz believes people, even those like himself who are not complete vegans, when they see vegan options offered, may also choose healthier, environmentally friendly choices, and as a consequence, help reduce the market that is destroying the rainforest. So thank you for letting me speak on that.
Thank you, Mr. Simard, and please thank Councilmember Koretz. We're very excited to move this forward. I mean, we're going to take more speakers, but this motion introduced by Councilman Koretz, seconded by Councilman Bonin, Councilman O'Farrell, and myself. So, going on back to the public comment for this item, Patty Shankar and Amber Canavan. If you guys could come on up, state your name, and go right ahead. Nice shirt.
Thank you. Patty Shankar. This coming January, I will be celebrating 50 years of not eating animals and being vegan for 18 years. Back in 1970, I was a freshman in college at Pitzer College in Claremont, California. I knew nothing of the horrific animal abuse that goes into breeding, raising, and killing farmed animals. I knew nothing about the environmental devastation. I knew nothing about food justice and world hunger. I knew nothing about the human health diseases and species endangerment, all caused by animal agriculture. I just knew that I wanted to live a nonviolent life, and I immediately knew and admitted that the violence was on my plate. I never ate another animal again. As time went on, I came to know that dairy and eggs were also extremely cruel and violent, so I naturally became a vegan. I am 68 years old, and I take no medication and have had no surgeries. I believe it is one of the best decisions I've made in my life for my body and my soul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Amber Canavan. I'm here on behalf of PETA and our over 166,000 members and supporters in Los Angeles in support of the council members' motion to increase the access to vegan options in venues across the city. This motion could not come soon enough because every year, not only, as we know, billions of animals are sent to a terrifying death at the slaughterhouse, but in the context of the Amazon rainforests burning at an alarming rate at the behest of the beef industry. We know that more than 90% of the Amazon rainforest that's been cleared since 1970 is now being used for meat production and for growing food for cattle, including those here in the U.S. market. The United Nations also has stated that animal agriculture is responsible for nearly a fifth of human-induced greenhouse gas emissions. And every day we hear from our members who are interested in going vegan to protect animals, the environment, and our own health, and we urge this committee to please approve this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Hendrickson and J.P. Rose. I'll call one more person. Brian Alexander. Come on up, and you guys could start. State your name and start in any order. Go ahead.
Well,
Thank you very much. Chris Hendrickson with the Humane League. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on this today, and I urge the committee to vote in favor of this motion. As you may know, in 2018, California passed Proposition 12, which was a historic measure which banned some of the most extreme confinement of farm animals with a 63% vote. And in Los Angeles County, 2 million people, or 71%, voted in favor of this proposition. Angelenos overwhelmingly and vocally oppose cruelty to farm animals and the cruel practices utilized in modern animal agriculture. For many, this influences their dietary choices and commitment to living a compassionate lifestyle. Having vegan protein options available is the right thing to do to protect the planet, to protect animals, and to make sure that people are able to choose food that's in line with their values to make the world a more compassionate place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please support this motion.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is JP Rose, and I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity. The Center is a national environmental organization with over 1.6 million members and online activists in the country and about 11,000 in LA. The Center strongly supports the motion to provide plant-based protein options at city facilities. Animal agriculture is one of the greatest drivers of climate change and the global extinction crisis. Meat production alone is responsible for at least 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and over 25% of the planet's ice-free surface is used for grazing, and 80% of deforestation is due to livestock production in the Amazon. In California and other western states, over 1 million wild animals are killed every year at the behest of the livestock industry. This means our burgers and steaks don't just involve the slaughter of cows, but also the poisoning and trapping and shooting of wolves, mountain lions, grizzly bears, and other iconic American wildlife. LA is already more progressive than other cities on this issue, and I'm proud that LA is the most vegan-friendly city. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Brian Alexander. I'm a Los Angeles resident and also the Director of Corporate Engagement at Mercy for Animals, an LA-headquartered global organization dedicated to creating a compassionate food system for people, animals, and our planet. We strongly support this motion to make vegan protein options available in certain Los Angeles facilities and respectfully urge the committee to vote yes today. I'd like to emphasize one aspect of this motion, which is that it does not remove any meal options from current menus. Instead, it simply requires that plant-based entree options are added and made available on an ongoing basis. By making more plant-based options available to Los Angeles residents and visitors, the city will reduce its greenhouse gas emissions and benefit the health of people, while decreasing animal suffering and generating revenue. I encourage you to review our official letter of support for more data and research. I brought a copy along for each of you. Please vote yes on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, and we got your letter as well. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Next, was that Roger?
Roger Wolfson?
Yeah. Okay, Roger Wolfson, Janet Martinez, Nicholas Sackett.
It's weird to be on this side of the table. This is my hearing room, too. I'm Roger Wolfson. I'm Commissioner of Animal Services for the City of Los Angeles.
Oh, no time limit for the commissioner. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I want to talk just really briefly then about the idea of courage. You know, this amendment and this concept is a courageous one. And I think if we look at the presidential politics right now, we see people who are devoted to animal rights issues who are still afraid to actually talk about it and who are still afraid to take a strong position about it. This motion has courage that is going to spread around the country. It's going to give presidential candidates more of an ability to speak on their own behalf. They can point to this and they can say, hey, look at one of the great things. They gauge by what we do here, they gauge around the country about what can be done. This is healthy for the citizens of Los Angeles. It's healthy for the planet. It's obviously healthy for the animals, and I should say a word about that just because I'm partly responsible for the animals in Los Angeles. They need our help, and they need us to be courageous on their behalf. But I am very proud to be a part of this community. I'm very proud to be sitting in front of you. I'm very proud of what you're doing. I just want to say this is one of those days that makes me so glad that I live in Los Angeles and that I'm part of this family. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I apologize for not recognizing you earlier, and we should have called you up earlier. I apologize.
Totally fine. Glad to speak.
Anyone want? Please. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Janet Martinez, and I'm the field organizer in Los Angeles with the Humane League. The demand for vegan protein options has been heard and met across the country by major restaurants like Burger King, who recently introduced the Impossible Whopper, a 100% plant-based burger patty. And they're serving it on their best iconic fashion manner on their national menu. Del Taco, who now has multiple vegan food options with Beyond Meat on their menu, and Subway, who just announced the addition of a vegan meatball sub to their menu. It is time for the City of LA to do the same. The City of Los Angeles is well known for its commitment to a healthy lifestyle, compassion in reducing animal suffering, and its efforts in protecting the environment. I am confident the city wants to continue to be a leader and an example to other cities on these important issues, and certainly does not want to lag behind within its own departments and the concessionaires which it controls or has the opportunity to influence. I kindly encourage you to support this motion. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you. And I was very curious the other day and actually had the Impossible Whopper burger. It tastes exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Sackett, Director of Legislative Affairs for Social Compassion and Legislation. Last year, we sponsored a bill at the state level, SB 1138, which required vegan meals to be available in state prisons and state hospitals. That effort was about allowing people to have healthy meals when they don't have anything else available to them. While we think everyone has a choice, people out in public with friends go with the flow. They get to a place, there's nothing available. This will change that. We also look to Los Angeles as a leader. Right now we have a bill at the state level which is going to incentivize vegan meals in schools, and we look to Los Angeles County for leadership on that. And this is another aspect that we look to Los Angeles for leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Lisa Carlin, but is there anyone else who came in late and couldn't sign up? Yeah, come on up. So I'll have Lisa Carlin come up, and then anyone else who didn't sign up? Yeah. No, it's okay. She could just come on up. It's all right. Anyone else in the audience? Because I know a lot of folks came to speak on this. Okay. State your name. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Carlin. I'm a certified Food for Life instructor with Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. We've been a nonprofit organization for more than 32 years. It isn't a secret that 1 out of 3 people will die from a cardiovascular related disorder. That means a heart attack, a stroke, or a blood clot. And after that, we have increased risk for cancer. We have increased risk for type 2 diabetes. We have an obesity epidemic. It's really important to offer plant-based options. Now, the opposition may say that there's still the same amount of calories and fat in the plant-based burgers for Beyond Meat and Impossible Burger. But what these two products lack is cholesterol and the animal proteins that are associated with increasing the risk factors for cancer. So what I'd like to tell this group, what I'd like to tell this group is that when people see how delicious, and as you mentioned before, Council Member, is it Ryu? Yeah. Yes, how delicious they are, that opens people's minds to thinking that, wow, that Beyond Burger was really delicious. Maybe I'll try some other plant-based options. And I think the net impact of that will be greater health, less and less chronic disease. Thank you very much.
My name is Jane Velez Mitchell. I'm a journalist and author and a citizen in Marina del Rey. I'm here because we are at a crisis point with the climate change. We saw, obviously, the climate strike making that point. Animal agriculture is a leading cause of climate change, responsible for more greenhouse gases than all transportation combined. That has been established years ago by the United Nations in a report called Livestock's Long Shadow that's available for anybody to read on the internet. So we have to look at the fact that right now the Amazon is on fire because cattle ranchers are setting fire to the forests, and they're doing that because of the meat and dairy industry. So for environmental reasons, I could go on, but those are just 2 key points. Now, as Lisa Carlin mentioned, when it comes to health, processed meat, which is how most people, including children, eat a lot of their meat, is officially cancer causing. It's established by the World Health Organization. Again, this is something easy to see online. So just to wrap up, we really need, Los Angeles always leads the way to the state of California and then the nation and the world. We are at a point where we have to start incorporating plant-based options into our culture, or we are going to be in serious trouble environmentally and health-wise. And it's really a shame that kids are exposed to cancer-causing foods without even having the alternative of choosing something that is healthier and that is plant-based. Thank you so much for considering this. This is so important.
Thank you, Jane. I felt like I just saw a mini documentary right now. Thank you. Is there any other speakers that I want to afford the time? I think some other people walked in, but okay. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your comments. We are very excited to move this forward. But before we pass it, does any of my colleagues have any comments?
I'll say something.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's insane that we don't give the same amount of oxygen to the animal farming industry as we do to tobacco and nicotine and everything else that's terrible for human existence. So I'm really proud to support this motion and support vegan food options at all city facilities. And as someone who hasn't eaten red meat or pork since 1984, the thought of red meat, if there's even a little bit accidentally on my plate, I have a gag reflex from it. I'm not vegan. Perhaps someday I'll be able to get all the way to vegan, but I know the personal health benefits of staying away from red meat and pork, just personally, for 35 years now. And so I think the way to a person's heart is through their stomach. So offering these healthy vegan options, I think is the way to go. And so I couldn't be more proud to support this. And hopefully this is the first of many more consciousness, awareness raising issues that we can support that the rest of the country will look to.
Well, unlike Mr. Farrell, I have eaten meat since 1984, but I am looking forward to tasting the Impossible Burger and some of the vegan options that are on the market now. I think it's important that we do have choices, and I think as we are exposed to these options and learned to enjoy the taste, we will certainly be healthier. So I'm happy to support this motion.
Thank you, colleagues, and it is our pleasure, and we really want to thank Councilmember. I closed public comment. I take it.
On this item, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have two more public comment item speakers. Well, actually, they signed up for multiple items, right? Okay, so Armando and Wayne, come on up. Give you guys a minute each.
So we essentially can't close public comment anymore.
Is this a non-agenda public comment? No, this is for agenda item number
vegan shit?
2.
Start the clock.
Is this regarding the vegan shit? Fucking vegan shit. Where's the fucking vegan? Oh, there you go. Fucking vegan.
So actually, City Attorney, let me know if this. They actually signed up for 3-4 items. So can I just give them a combined 2 minutes for all the items?
No, it's general public comment and multiple agenda item comment are closed.
Yeah.
So they can pick one item that's left on the agenda to speak on. And this is the item they have 1 minute each.
Which item would you guys like to speak on? This item or a different item?
We want to speak on all. I'm going to speak on the V for.
Okay, so minute each. Let's start the timer for Armando.
Thank you. Thank you for vegan proteins. I like the big verga because big vergas remind me of gay people that take it in the back where the city food concentrias locations are. But see, I'm a godly man. I have fear to sleep with any vegan because I'm afraid of catching AIDS, motherfucker, and have to die. So I stay away from vegan foods. I like eating shit. The same fucking shit I've been fed all these days of the crisis on homelessness, going through the rubbish of you white motherfucking Jews. So I know what it's like to get my portions. I know what it's like to be a black motherfucker in the city of Los Angeles. That's why Ben Carson came here to tell you, Eric Garcetti, fuck you, spend your city monies, and stop fucking with Armando Herman for the record, nigga.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wayne?
Yeah, we get the city food concessions. One thing we don't want to eat is food that looks like an uncircumcised cock. No, we don't want that. There's certain hot dogs that look like an uncircumcised cock. We want our food to look like a circumcised cock in honor of the Hebrew holiday upon which we are celebrating. And every motherfucker celebrates a Hebrew holiday. Well, what would current price be today without Jews? He'd be on the fucking street. Where would you be? You'd be back in Korea eating dogs. Yeah. And then Mitchell Fell, he'd be back in Oklahoma chasing cock at the local saloon. So we are all grateful to all you Hebrews. Thank you for paying everybody up. Thank you for paying off the judges. And fuck the FBI. We all here in corruption and we're happy.
Thank you, Wayne. I apologize to the public for anyone who might be here for the first time to a committee meeting or to a city council meeting. This is freedom of speech. We almost made it, but unfortunately, but going back to the item, I just really want to thank all the advocates and everyone here today, as well as Councilmember Paul Koretz for leading the way on this issue. And you know, as many of the speakers said and my colleagues said, what happens in LA goes California and goes the nation and the world. So we're very excited to push this forward today for environmentalism, for health, for animal welfare. This is something that we are happy to do, and we will push this immediately forward on a unanimous vote with my colleagues and send it to the City Council as quick as we can so we could get it passed in the City Council. But thank you so very much. So, thank you. Thank you. So, colleagues, this takes us to item 5 and 7 on the agenda. If I could take those two items together, if you could read those in.
Item number 5, LA for City Steering Committee report relative to the status update and cost to complete estimates for remaining Proposition K program funding and projects. Item number 7, LA for Kids Steering Committee report and resolution relative to the initiation of proceedings for the 2020 to 21 Proposition K assessment, instructing the city engineer to report on capital improvements to parks and recreation facilities citywide.
Thank you, and I think we have the department here with the presentation.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is
Oh,
Jennifer.
wait a minute. Do we have any public comment? My screen turned off. No, we have no public comment. Great. So there is no public comment for this item, and that satisfies public comment. And go ahead.
So, good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Shumatsu, and I'm with the Office of the CAO. I'll discuss briefly item 7 really quickly, and then we'll go on to item 5. On August 29th, the LA for Kids Steering Committee approved the resolution to initiate proceedings for the 2020-21 assessment. So this is a requirement from the state for levying the annual $25 million, and it authorizes staff to develop the 2020-21 expenditure plan. So this is just an administrative action in order to assess the $25 million. So item 5 is the cost to complete report. So we have provided you with a PowerPoint, and it covers fiscal years 1997, 98 through 2026-27. So slide 2 just briefly goes over the program overview, and Pretty much the Proposition K program was established in 1996 through adoption of a ballot measure. The program is currently in year 23 of a 30-year authorization, and it sunsets in 2026-27. The city receives $25 million annually for a total amount of $750 million. The funds are only eligible for use on acquisition and development of youth, recreation, and cultural projects. And there are two types of projects in the program, specified and competitive. There are 183 specified projects listed in the ballot measure, and there is $143.7 million authorized for grant awards. So Prop K is restricted to 3 funding categories, and it's listed on the slide. Administrative funding at 3%, maintenance at 15%, and capital funding at 82%. For the remainder of the program, admin will be a constant $723,000, which is a reduction from the 2018-19's allocation of approximately $81,000. Going forward, maintenance will be a constant $7.14 million, which is an increase of approximately $2 million from the 2018-19 allocation. The majority of the Proposition K requirements have been satisfied. The completed project count for specified is 139 projects, and that does not include 20 phase projects that are in various stages of completion. There are 44 remaining specified projects that includes both active and future projects. And we only need to award approximately $12.4 million in competitive funding. We are recommending initiating the release of the 10th cycle RFP in January 2020. Funding will be available for a 3-year period beginning on July 1st, 2021. There are 2 categories remaining: youth, schools, and acquisition. The RFP will include $2.7 million in restricted supplemental funding. And so that's HATS and Parks First funding. So we have clarified with City Attorney that there needs to be an equitable distribution across the 3 regions through the ballot measure. It has been the city's methodology since the first cycle that all 3 regions receive an equal share of the funding for the competitive projects. There is currently a regional imbalance that needs to be equalized. The blue font is the proposed 10th cycle award distribution, and this will achieve an equitable distribution across the 3 regions. $124.6 million is available for the specified program, which includes $39.9 million in base funding and inflationary awards, and $84.8 million in surplus capacity for specified project shortfalls. So, within this report, the 44 remaining projects are divided into 4 tiers. Tier 1 includes 20 projects that currently have no shortfalls. However, this could change as projects move into pre-development and design. There are also some acquisitions included in this tier. Tier 2 includes 4 projects that are recommended for funding. This also includes 5 competitive projects. Tier 3 includes 8 projects that have shortfalls under $5 million, and Tier 4 includes 12 projects that have shortfalls over $5 million. So we are also recommending a 3-year time limit to resolve the shortfalls. This time frame is recommended to ensure that there is sufficient time for project implementation, and this may require downscoping or alternative project delivery options.
Before we go to the next slide, Bernice Hollins, Office of the CAO. I just want to point out while we're on here, we do have sufficient capacity to fully address the Tier 3 shortfalls. However, what we're trying to do is make sure that we can deliver on all of the projects. So what we're going to be doing over the next 3 years, we're working very closely with the Department of Recreation and Parks and Cultural Affairs Department to try to secure as many grants as possible. And then we would look at our supplemental funding sources such as Community Development Block Grant, sites and facilities. We also have a component of the capital improvement and expenditure program that's part of the city's budget. Currently, as of this year, we have about $18 million dedicated to recreational and cultural facilities. So to the extent that we're not able to fully
That's all 3 regions? Or?
That's for all 3. That's a citywide funding source, the CIEP. But what I'm saying is that by the time we get to the 3 years, we're going to have far more grant resources. We will have set aside supplemental sources that are under our control. We will be meeting with each council office to develop potential, like Plan B's, alternate scope options, potentially downscoping or just proposing an alternate project if it's not supported by the community. But our intent is to leverage this $84 million so that we can deliver on all the projects. And even though the Tier 4 is reflecting $160 million in shortfalls right now, there are a lot of options. One of the projects that we have, we can fully eliminate a $23 million shortfall simply by moving the project to a site that's less than 1 mile away. So even though this is, like I said, Tier 4 is reflecting the Plan A, we're going to have a backup plan, and we will be able to implement something in all these local communities, because effectively all of the citizens have been paying for the last 23 years into this fund to make sure that other people's projects are delivered by the end of the 30 years, and especially since we're looking at potentially doing another park bond, we want to make sure that we deliver on all the promises that we've made. And like I said, if there's opposition to a project scope element, if it's just infeasible for other reasons, then we will find a similar project, something that's compatible with the intent of the original scope, something that's supported by the council office and the community, and we'll work to develop on that project. Sorry, go ahead.
So the report recommendations being made for the competitive program are to authorize BOE to release the 10th cycle RFP in January 2020 and approve the proposed distribution of the competitive funds in order to achieve an equitable distribution. For specified, it's to instruct BOE to provide quarterly reports to the steering committee, establish a 3-year deadline to offset the shortfalls, or provide alternative project delivery options for council consideration, and to utilize GSD or on-call consultants to identify sites for acquisition. For funding, we're recommending to approve $4.5 million to offset Tier 2 project shortfalls, utilizing $3.36 million in sites and facilities and $1.1 million in Prop K competitive reprogramming. So here are some of the regional projects that have been completed for Prop K. You have Banning, Hanson Dam Ranger Station, Echo Park Lake. Here are some of the projects in Central Region. Poinsettia, Pacific Palisades, Children's Institute. Here are some in the Southern. Manchester Junior Arts, Lafayette Rec Center, Fred Roberts Gym. And then here are some of the projects in the Valley region that have been completed. And it's the North Hollywood Intergenerational Center, Sun Valley, Aliso Canyon.
And so I just want to just recap. At this point, like I said, we're at a significant milestone in the program. Of the 44 projects that are remaining, 20 of those are phased projects, so we've already completed a portion of the scope. These various projects that we just showed you in the slide, all of those, most of those involve some type of level of supplemental funds. We developed a plan for each one of those, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to deliver on this remaining 44 with the support of your offices. I did want to just speak to the projects that are remaining in your districts. In Council District 4, all of your projects are currently ranked as Tier 1 projects that don't have shortfalls at this time. However, even above the $87 million that we have in current surplus capacity, as we complete projects, we will have residual funds that we'll be able to reprogram. So to the extent that we end up with shortfalls on Tier 1 or Tier 2, beyond the projected levels, we'll still have additional monies, residual funds that we'll be able to apply towards those shortfalls. For Council District 9, of course, we're working on implementing the Southern Pacific Trails as part of a mural district concept, and we had meetings with Metro within the last 2 weeks. So we're going to be, as part of this report, it recommends funding that we would be using for pre-development to hire a consultant and work with Metro. In the current year, we will actually include those funding transfers in the second CPR that will be released within the next 2 weeks so that we can get going on hiring a consultant, because of course all this work is contingent on getting our design in place, all the pre-development, so that we're actually able to initiate construction.
What's the funding level for that?
The funding level, we have just under $2 million in the Prop K funds. The $250 that I just spoke are additional supplemental funds that we added to the project just to fund the consultant portion of it. And then we would assume that at some point there would be a request through the CIEP to fund the art components that would not be eligible through the Prop K portion, would fund the capital components. The other
That would cover the landscaping that we talked about.
The landscaping, all the landscaping, like any types of walls or fencing or sculptural elements, that is more of a capital in nature, so we could use Prop K. But anything in terms of like actually hiring artists to put murals on the walls of like neighboring businesses, and there's a freeway underpass that we looked at, a potential partnership with Caltrans. But those specific art elements would have to have its own funding. And like I said, we do currently have $18 million in the CIEP for those types of projects. It would not exceed the 1% that we currently devote to capital funding from general fund sources. But we're also working with the Department of Cultural Affairs, was at this meeting with Metro, so they're going to be a partner and assist us with that component of it. Aside from that project, we also have 2 acquisitions for Trinity and Central. There was an opportunity several years ago to acquire a property that would have essentially created a green belt. It would have been in between the 2 existing parks. So we're working with GSD right now to identify potential land options, and we want to do that as soon as possible so that we can lock in that land opportunity and then start working on securing funding for the development. In Council District 13, we have the Hollywood Rec Center project. That's actually a Tier 4 project with a $10 million unresolved shortfall at this point. However, we felt it was very important to initiate design on that because, of course, Rec and Parks is applying for grant funds. But one of the things that makes us more compatible for grant funding is having a project that's shovel-ready. So we'll be utilizing the Quimby monies to do the design. Like I said, the grant application is in process. It's a $10 million shortfall. I believe RAF is applying for the maximum of 8.5. But at this point, we would be limiting any awards of gap funding, the surplus capacity that we have, to approximately about 1.9 million, because that's about the proportionate share for 44 projects.
Per project.
As we move further, we would have the capacity, as we know that other projects are completed, do not need that gap capacity, then we would be able to award additional funds. So the bottom line is we'll see what happens with these grant applications, and then we'll circle back to your office and fill the remaining gap.
Great. Well, thank you for that wonderful presentation. I have a couple of questions, but I know Councilman O'Farrell does too. But I'll let you go first, Councilman.
Okay, it's specific to the Hollywood Rec Center.
Yes.
So we know that there's also, as part of that project and part of the costs, are some moving around facilities, right? Like the children's play area has to be relocated. And so have you looked at any cost-saving measures so that the shortfall is reduced?
I can address that. Neil Drucker, Bureau of Engineering. Yes, Councilman, we're working both with your staff and with our consultant team that we've just brought on to start the pre-design, and that hopefully now that this report is approved on item number 6, we'll be able to bring them on a full-time basis. We've been working with them on a number of issues. One, as you know, in addition to our project, there's also state funding for a synthetic turf field at the same site at Hollywood Recreation Center. So we're working with Recreation and Parks to ensure that when we do the synthetic field, we do that in such a way that it accommodates our contractors' laydown area and parking, which is obviously a major issue at the site. We're also looking at various alternatives, 3 different alternatives that we've begun to look at that will minimize how much moving we have to do. So one of the alternatives actually keeps the gym at the same location, which minimizes costs. It still does ultimately require that we move the playground from adjacent to the pool area to the other side, and that's going to be one of the significant expenses that we have to do. We've looked at other alternatives, but because of the lack of parking, we don't see much in the way of alternatives. Other than that, we feel that we can get away with very limited relocation of other facilities. That would be, I think, the major relocation.
And the funding from the state for the synthetic field, that is a completely separate and autonomous fund.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah. I just, that rec center is a shambles, as you all know. There is actually a fireplace in the gym to heat the building, a fireplace with real wood that you're supposed to put in there.
We
or
call
maybe
it
it's
a
gas now.
quasi-gym, Councilman.
Right, right.
It's not really a full gym.
Right, so it's
because of
tiny.
Current standards.
Well, and then the I don't know, kitchen or commissary is completely just a shambles. So I'm glad to hear that you're moving forward with the design. And I know Marisol from my office is working with you all and very creatively. So yes, let's move forward. We'll figure it out, and maybe some of those grant funds will come in. And in the winter, we can play basketball without a warm fire going. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. And I just had two quick questions. Is there any ability to relocate funds between the administrative, maintenance, and capital categories in order to cover any of the smaller shortfalls for the 44 remaining projects?
No, there isn't. We have been consistently advised by City Attorney because these fixed ratios were set in the ballot measure, we would have to go back to another ballot measure, and we would run the risk of overturning the program. We certainly wouldn't want to do it at this late stage, and keep in mind that Proposition K is not currently subject to the requirements of it. Is it 218, Neil? So we don't have to actually show that type of synergy between the improvements and the monies that we're collecting. We've been able, the reason why we've been so successful in the programs because we've been able to pool our resources, we leverage other funds, and so we've been able to deliver on everyone's project. But in terms of addressing the small funding shortfalls, we're referring to the Tier 3 categories, the $13 million. Like I said before, we do have sufficient capacity for the $87 million. We are willing to dedicate as much as $1.9 million for each project at this stage, anything that's ready to go. But again, our strategy to deliver on the whole is to try to wait and see what types of grant awards we're able to get for anything that's above the $1.9 million level, and then we'll come back. We'll be updating this plan quarterly. The Bureau of Engineering will be reporting to the LA for Kids Steering Committee on a quarterly basis, and then we will be providing updates as part of the annual program budget of where we are. But like I said, we will be working with every individual council office so everyone will know where their respective projects are.
Great. And for the competitive funds, in particular the $10.65 million for youth, schools, and recreation projects, is LAUSD eligible to apply?
Yes, LAUSD, along with private schools and charter schools, would all be able to apply, and it actually requires a joint use, an executed joint use agreement between the school and Recreation and Parks in order to receive those funds.
Great, thank you.
Just one other question. So how can a school or institution partner up or learn about this program, see if they're eligible or see if they have an interest in applying?
So usually most of the projects for all of our Proposition K rounds, there's usually the council office is involved regardless of whether it's a city-sponsored project or a nonprofit. It's usually funneled through the council office, and then the council office indicates its support for the various projects and then works with the Bureau of Engineering, Recreation and Parks, and if it was a cultural facility, it would be the Department of Cultural Affairs. But we really take the leadership from the department. Of course, agencies can apply for funds independently, but to the extent that there is a strong interest in assisting the agency, we do provide technical assistance. The Bureau of Engineering will be providing a technical assistance seminar in one seminar in each of the 3 districts to also provide additional clarification once the RFP is released.
And when's that going to be?
The RFP release is January 2020. It's a full year-long process to do the award determinations because what BOE does is they do a preliminary review just to make sure that the projects are qualified, have met all the requirements of the RFP, and then those potential projects are then taken to the RVNOCs, the Regional Volunteer Neighborhood Oversight Committee. Every council office appoints 2 members, 2 community members to represent their projects, and they're the ones that make the initial award recommendations. Those awards will then go to the steering committee in October or November 2020, and then in April of 2021, that's when we would provide the final funding recommendations as part of the annual budget for council to review, and then the monies would become available in, am I right, July 2021? Did I keep the timeline right? Yeah. Okay. So in July 2021 through 22, 23, 24, the funds would be programmed over a 3-year period.
All right, thank you.
Councilman, if I might add, Neil Drucker, Bureau of Engineering again. Please and all of you refer any school district projects that you're aware of to both my staff and Recreation and Parks as soon as possible. The joint use agreement that Bernice talked about earlier, those take the longest, and the sooner we can get working with the school district and Recreation and Parks and start negotiating those joint use agreements, the better. So if those are ready by the time the next RFP comes out, the schools that apply with the joint use agreement already in place are in a much better position.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, members. And seeing no further questions, I'd like to move and approve items 5 and 7 on today's agenda. Seeing no objections, these items are approved. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, council members, and we hope over the next couple of years that we will give you new projects to mount and display in this room. These are pretty outdated, but they represent some of our most significant projects.
What a successful program. Congratulations. I can't imagine the city without it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Item number 8. Before we read that in, I just want to note that actually we're going to continue item number 8. Do we still have to read that in or no? We're continuing. We don't have to read it. So it was actually misagendized, so it's going to come at a later date. But I know there's 3 people who signed up for it, so I'm still going to allow you to come and make public comment. I don't see the names. J.P. Rose, Nicholas Sackett, and Allison Simard. Come on up.
Good afternoon again, City Council members, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Again, my name is J.P. Rose, and I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity. The center supports the city's proposed ban on the use of Roundup and glyphosate. The use of glyphosate leads to many avoidable public health hazards. For instance, several government research agencies have found a link between glyphosate and cancer. A 2015 World Health Organization analysis of the leading independent research determined glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. Other U.S. federal agencies have acknowledged evidence of glyphosate's link to cancer. Glyphosate is also a threat to wildlife and the environment. Analysis by the EPA has found that exposure to spray drift could harm the growth and reproduction of birds and mammals. Glyphosate is also the leading cause of the decline of the imperiled monarch butterfly. In short, there is no excuse to continue using glyphosate when there are safer alternatives for the public and the environment that don't require the use of dangerous pesticides. Thank you for your time, and please vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Allison, are you personal or official?
On behalf of the council.
On behalf of the council. Let me give you more time, so go ahead.
Sure. Nicholas Sackett, Social Compassion Legislation. We are not necessarily a scientific group, so I'll be quick. I just want to say recently studies came out showing that insect populations are collapsing. These are the foundation of our food chain. This banning of Roundup seems like the least we can do. I would imagine that there are a lot of other chemicals that need to be banned, but this is a good first step. So I urge you to vote yes on this measure.
Thank you. Allison, go ahead. We don't need a time limit for.
And again, Allison Simard speaking on behalf of Councilmember Koretz, and I'll read his statement. Thank you for hearing this motion today, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Koretz wanted to make sure that I also thank Councilmember Bonin for his leadership on this topic. In addition to Roundup being terrible environmentally, it turns out it has become an enormous liability for a city to use as well. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer deemed Roundup a probable carcinogen in 2015. The California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment lists glyphosate as a known human carcinogen under the state's Proposition 65. Also, a UC San Diego study linked the weed killer to a rise in liver disease among humans. Recently, the use of herbicide has been the subject of considerable and frequent litigation. Several cases in California were recently filed against Monsanto, the parent company for Roundup, claiming that Roundup causes cancer. In 3 cases in the past year, the courts found in favor of the plaintiffs and ordered Monsanto to pay damages. And in one case, the plaintiffs were awarded $2,055 billion in dollars in damage, which was reported as the largest award in any personal injury case and the 8th largest in U.S. history. It's increasingly clear that the use of Roundup and glyphosate by the city departments puts the city at a very real and very serious risk of litigation and liability. The cities of Irvine and San Juan Capistrano have taken action to protect their parkgoers from the dangers presented by pesticides by adopting organic landscaping policies, which which eschew toxic chemicals in favor of preventative and non-chemical approaches to pest management. So Councilmember Koretz introduced a motion to look at doing the same, and he looks forward to hearing that motion soon in this committee. And there are better ways to prevent weeds and protect human health, and we need to find them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Councilmember, just for clarification, your letter was in
That's
support
for item-
of the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the,
And the
in-
special.
the special meeting
Yes, it's
agenda.
just-
item.
yeah,
We'll
so
have it
yeah,
read into the
so
record
just
for
spoke
that
the
as
wrong
well.
one. Yes, yes. Actually, you want to speak on the special, so it's coming up. It's coming up. Yeah. So actually, Council District 5 should have spoke on the next item, but sorry about that. There was a confusion in the agenda. There's no more business on the regular agenda, right? So at this point, I want to adjourn the regular meeting and open up today's special meeting. On the special meeting, you guys are all in the special meeting. So a general public comment is already closed on the general meeting. Yeah. So right. So it's going to come up on the next one. It's going to come up here. Thank you. So Daryl, you want to read item number 1 into the record?
Yes. Harbor Department report in motion, Bonin, Corrette, Luciano, relative to the citywide ban on the use of Roundup and glyphosate.
Thank you. All right, there we go. I can't see it. All right, here we go. I have 9 speakers. So Eric Previn, Patty Shankar, Michael Atkins. Go ahead anytime.
Sure. Hello. Thanks for having. Thank you for hearing this motion. My name is Michael Atkins, speaking on behalf of Friends of the LA River. Our organization is very familiar to these 2 council members here. We run a very large volunteer effort and conduct educational programming in schools in Los Angeles County to elevate the river in the minds of the people. This particular issue has been brought to our attention as just a public resource for the community. I want to commend members of the community in Atwater Village who have been pushing very hard for us to examine ways to pressure various government agencies to reduce the usage of Roundup in the river channel. I just want to also highlight that the river collects from our driveways, from our rooftops, over 900 square miles of the watershed feeds into the LA River and reaches the ocean right there at our port. So reducing glyphosate is a major concern to members of the community. Adam Schiff has communicated to the Army Corps. The county is studying it as well. The state has also been pushing for reduction of rodenticide. And I'm just very much here to support the city also halting usage.
Thank you.
I want to correct, my name is Patty Shankar.
Shankar, I apologize.
No worries. I just wanted to make that, because there's Cherie Shankar. Many cities and states across America are banning or restricting synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. These chemicals cause air pollution, soil erosion, and harm us and wildlife. Almost daily, I hear a commercial reaching out to people who used Roundup, who now face non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, to help them sue this company, Monsanto. I was from St. Louis, so I know of Monsanto. There are also links to allergies, skin conditions, and birth defects. So I think it is important, actually imperative, to ban this product. Portland, Maine residents overwhelmingly voted to ban it, citing wanting a clean environment and wondering why they hadn't done it 10 years ago. As Joni Mitchell, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, sang so many years ago, "Hey farmer, put away the DDT, give me spots on my apples, but leave me the birds and the bees." So I urge your support. Thank you.
Big yellow taxi.
Thank you. Oh, Eric, come on up, Eric.
Thank you. I appreciate this item because I think it's essential that we not, further toxify our environment. And the data is clear on this material. So I appreciate what the council is bringing forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Barbara Edelman and Lisa Carlin, please. Okay, I'll call you guys. Yeah, I'll let all of you guys speak.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead. State your name and go ahead.
Barbara Edelman, just a person. We are the only species that I've ever heard of that pours poison on our food and then eats it. And now in Los Angeles, and for the past period of time, every 3 weeks the Department of Parks and Rec saturates the public lands with Roundup. Public lands that are used by pregnant women, and it is known to be dangerous to the development of fetuses. You know all this stuff. I guess my only thing that I can add to the conversation is perhaps you might want to get out in front of this, because judging from the ads on television about lawsuits, it is just a very brief matter of time before one of the employees at the Department of Parks and Recs comes down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and sues the city of Los Angeles, because everyone knows that they're doing something that's bad for them and bad for us. So I'm just going to keep it brief, and I hope that you consider doing the right thing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Carlin, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's only recently that we've discovered that there is illness and cancer associated with Roundup, or the chemical name known as glyphosate, because this chemical managed when Monsanto ran the company, it's now owned by Bayer, to get this product out before the public without testing it on humans and animals. People ask me all the time about organic foods. One of the reasons to eat organic foods is because organic foods are not treated with glyphosate. So that's the reason to go for organic foods. But the reality is glyphosate is toxic. It's toxic to people. It's very likely toxic to animals. There's an increase in cancer, especially amongst a 50% increase in cancer among Labradors and Golden Retrievers. This could be one of the reasons that causes that. I think it's essential to ban this product, which now we know causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Thank you very much. Oh, and I did want to say one more thing, is that I had the pleasure of interviewing the person, Avery Yale Camilla in Maine, who's a reporter for the Portland Press Herald.
If you could close it, yeah.
She was responsible for passing the ordinance in the city of Portland, Maine.
Thank you. If I could have Armando and Wayne, and I apologize in advance to the members of the public. Armando and Wayne? Well, I'll call you afterwards, yeah. Yeah, I guess we're having some computer problems, so I'm going to call everybody who's signed up first. Wayne? I mean, Armando? Go ahead, Wayne. Go first.
They the same nigga? I don't know. So this again, I like Roundup because I spray it on my fleas, I spray it on my cockroaches in the tent encampment I live in, and it cleaned that shit up real fine. Now, when you get rid of Roundup, you're going to have rickets. You're going to have pests. You're going to have them all over the fucking place. Rats with fleas giving you typhus. Yes. Now, do you want typhus? Or a little tiny, teeny risk of cancer? I trust Bayer Corporation. They were founded by the Nazis, and the Nazis know how to make good shit to kill shit. So I say, fuck yeah, let's not ban Roundup. God bless Bayer. God bless the German government for killing these motherfucking goddamn pests. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Armando, get a minute.
Roundup is actually a good product. Kills everything. I think they should prescribe it for people with AIDS so you can fucking kill them with Roundup.
You're not on topic, sir.
Well, typhus is from a rat transported into our lawns, into our shrubs, into our yards, into our parks, into our swimming pools, and it's contagious. Now, I would ask for the record if Mr. Curran Price has ever been subjected to a Roundup situation. Because when the FBI came to me,
That's not on
asked
topic,
me
sir.
about this harbor department's report on the use of Roundup. I said, look here, motherfucker, you know better than Bonnie, Koretz, and Buyaskian all know the impact about this fucking Roundup, and you should round up all the fucking niggas and send them to the ground.
Thank you, thank you. For the members of the public who wasn't here earlier, this is again free speech. I apologize. We had to take 2 minutes of your life away from you. I apologize for that in advance. I think there were some problems, people signing up. There is no general public comment for this one, but if people who signed up, if you want to come on up. So if you could state your name.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Armighty May. I'm a veterinarian here in Los Angeles. I practice house calls for dogs and cats and offer a variety of options, including Chinese herbs and acupuncture. I'm in support of banning Roundup for a number of reasons. I've seen an increased incidence of cancers in our animal companions, and I attribute part of that to the high concentration of glyphosate and other toxic chemicals that make their way into the pet foods, but also into human food as well. I've been a vegan for 20 years, and I came earlier to want to speak in favor of the vegan protein initiative. But it is important that we look at the chemicals that we're spraying because it affects cancer, it also affects autism, birth defects, and many other health outcomes. And there are alternatives to toxins that can get rid of the pests. The Working Cats program to get rid of rats, it would be good to look into. Voice for the Animals Foundation does the Working Cats program.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Roundup is simply very toxic, and weeds can be dealt with without the use of toxic chemicals. Even just old-fashioned manual labor, which creates jobs and provides exercise, is a better option. Therefore, I strongly advocate that the use of Roundup be banned or greatly curtailed in California so as to protect human health. And in connection with health, thanks for passing item number 2, which will help to promote veganism, which is good for human and planetary
I'm sorry,
health.
you got to stick to the item that we're on talking about. That item I already
Yeah,
had.
but I'm talking about health in a way, if you don't mind just kind of connecting it.
Sure, go
Thank
ahead.
you so much. Okay. In addition to promoting peace and kindness, I look forward to city concessionaire locations possibly offering whole grain avocado sandwiches, plant-based yogurt alternatives, vegan bean burritos, nuts, baked tofu, nut butter sandwiches, and other plant-based items. Also, it's worth noting that if global warming and not solar cycles are primarily responsible for global warming, then our current diet as a society would probably be the main cause of this warming, in addition to creating air and water pollution and contributing to world hunger.
Thank you. And your name was?
Dunn May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Velez Mitchell, journalist, author. I just wanted to weigh in that this is so important, again, for California leading the way. We are literally just killing wildlife left and right. 1 million species threatened with extinction. Dr. Salesh Rao, who is a Stanford PhD, estimates we will have literally no wildlife vertebrates left in a decade except in zoos. And I'm not talking about squirrels, I'm talking about hippos, pandas. No, this is a global crisis. So again, Los Angeles leading the way to point away from these horrible chemicals that are so unnecessary. We cannot kill our way out of these problems. We are going to have to learn to deal with nature in another way if we are to survive as a planet.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And that's all members of the public. That closes public comment. I just want to let the members of the public know that the City of LA has already phased out Generation 1 and 2 of Roundup. And the ports are and the harbor is already in phasing out the next generation of Roundup. The previous item, number 8, is what we're waiting for our study back on, which is we'll be looking on phasing out the next generation of Roundup in all throughout the City of LA. So that was mistakenly scheduled, but that will come back to committee at a later time. So with that said, I want to recommend that we adopt the motion before us and note and file the Harbor Department report.
No objections.
Seeing no objections, that will be the order. And Mr. Clerk, do we have any more business on our docket today?
That is clear, sir.
That's clear. Thank you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.